lose myself tonight. Baby, you bring me to my feet the minute you walk by. With your red lips, white teeth, shaking them hips and skinny blue jeans. Can't help but hum along, your freedom gets me high. And we can dance like no one else is watching. Take my hand and put it on your heart. Sing out loud, 'cause no one gets me rocking like you. You're my anthem. You're my anthem. You're my anthem. I wanna see those fireworks lighting up your eyes. I wanna know your melody and get it memorized. You're my chorus, you're my verse, pledge allegiance every word. Turn it up and turn me on, now baby don't be shy. And we can dance like no one else is watching. Take my hand and put it on your heart. Sing out loud, 'cause no one gets me rocking like you. You're my anthem. You're my anthem. You're my anthem. I just wanna sing you all night long. Take me till the early light of dawn. I just wanna sing you all night long. Take me till the early light of dawn. And we can dance like no one else is watching. Take my hand and put it on your heart. Sing out loud, 'cause no one gets me rocking like you. You're my anthem. You're my anthem. Girl, you're my anthem. You're my anthem. You're my anthem. No one else is watching. Take my hand and put it on your heart. Sing out loud, 'cause no one gets me rocking like you. You're my anthem.
So, maybe unmuting the mic is a good idea before starting. It's been a while since I've done that. But, that seems to happen once every, 4th episode. All right, so I'll check the chat. You guys should be able to hear me now. Audio. It gets really complicated when you're trying to route stuff through Skype calls and all this wonderful, Anyway, I hope you guys have had a great last couple weeks, and I'm glad to see you all here. Riley Slivka here. Welcome back to AgriLive. This is the most disorganized intro I've ever done, but that's all right because it's going to be an awesome episode tonight. We got a guy named Nathan Taylor that we'll be speaking to here in a couple minutes. You guys are going to ask him a bunch of questions about farming in central Alberta, and he's going to share some of his experiences with that, and then being one of the younger guys that is actively in production agriculture. So we'll check in with him here in a couple minutes, but first, just a couple housekeeping things, if I can remember what those housekeeping things were. I was going to talk about the new video submission forms, and yes, we might get back to watching a few of your videos tonight, if we have time. I gotta be out of here at 8 o'clock for sure, but that should still give us plenty of time to talk about all sorts of stuff. So let's go ahead and head over to the monitor here, and I'll show you guys. Oh, we're totally spoiling Nathan. He's muted right now, but he'll be audible in a minute. He's just gonna have to use sign language for now. But this is the new video submission form, and how this works is there's 2 of them now, so it's super complicated. This one that you're looking at right now with Nathan and I is the one that you can only use during a live stream. So the goal for this is that you submit your videos during the actual broadcast, during the live stream. That way you have a much better chance of seeing your video while you're in the chat and watching the stream. And it's just something that I implemented because this thing sort of exploded. Thank you, Nick Welker, for that. Anyway, pretty simple, works just like the other form did. You go here, put in your channel name so it's easy to find you in the chat and in the submissions list. Paste a URL to your video. It has to be YouTube, or I think Google Drive technically would work too. It just has to stream. I don't download these. They have to stream. And describe just very briefly what you're submitting. This constructive feedback thing, I would recommend opting yes for this one. If you opt in for additional feedback, that's going to increase your chances even more of getting featured, and will definitely help you in your future endeavors of video creation. So definitely do that. You don't have to, but it's a good idea to do so. And then if I click here, this should redirect me to the other forum. If you want to submit not during a live broadcast, you got to use this form right here. And so you just choose, oh, that didn't register for me. Agree to that. You're going to submit for a future stream. Now, the benefit to doing this is that it guarantees, or it gives you a higher chance at least, of your videos being featured in the pre-show, just like we saw a couple minutes ago, as well as the thumbnails for the videos. So it just gives me a archive of extra content to work with, and it's awesome. So I hope that's not too confusing for you guys, but I feel like it was something necessary to make it a little more fair for everybody for next time that we do a full episode of just watching your farm videos. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking, and we're going to actually talk to Nathan here a little bit. So let me go ahead and make sure that you guys can hear Nathan, because apparently I'm really good at muting people's mics today. All right, I think we can actually hear you now, Nathan. Let me fix your camera real quick here in the software. I see it's something's going on with it. I don't know what exactly happened, but this might... All right.
Well, yeah.
We're getting there. We're getting there. So that's technically got to go there. So you might have to rotate your iPad a little bit. Beautiful. All right, Nathan, how's it going?
Good, good.
Cool, cool. So in the chat, use the hashtag... Okay, now my camera is a little off. Let's just do that a little bit. There we go. Okay. In the chat, hashtag Ask Nathan if you want to ask him a question. And we'll try and answer as many of those as possible. Looks like we'll get to a bunch of them tonight, so that's awesome. But Nathan, how's your past week been?
Oh, pretty good. It's snow's starting to disappear and starting to warm up a little, so we're full force in trying to get spring stuff ready and we got one of our tractors up at a dealership getting new tires put on and an air conditioner, and then we got I don't know, we got just all sorts of spring stuff to do. We're actually switching from anhydrous ammonia fertilizer this year to urea pellets. So that's kind of something new that we haven't done before. So that's definitely changing some of the kind of practices we've been using for years. So it's always interesting trying to get stuff ready in the spring and then, changing thing as well.
Awesome. Yeah, springtime's definitely a really busy time of the year, but yeah, good to hear that good old Canada is finally starting to thaw out a little bit. What's the temperature over there right now?
Fahrenheit, I'm not too sure. I should have figured out a conversion for that.
I will convert it for you. Just give me Celsius here.
We're about right now, we're at about, most days we're about 15 degrees Celsius. So.
Okay. So to convert that to American units here, that is pretty warm actually. So you've been around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, it looks like. And that's actually, that's about the same as we've been down here, at least in Bozeman. And I think pretty much all of the state of Montana has been about the same too. Much, much warmer than a month ago, or even like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah, we were hanging out at minus 30 all of February there, so it
minus 30
feels like summertime.
Let's see. Yeah, that's a little bit colder actually than we were. So that translates to negative 22 Fahrenheit, and that for an average is pretty cold. We got down to negative 30 Fahrenheit, which would drop that Celsius number down just a few degrees as well. And cold, very cold for especially the beginning of March. So glad to see this warmer weather finally. So I got to ask Nathan here, and we got to figure out what crops do you grow on your farm. Maybe tell us a little bit about what your farm is.
Yeah, we're a grain farm. We do have some pasture land, but that's all rented out to another farmer that does the cattle thing. So we haven't done that since my great uncle used to farm actually. So we're just grain farm, and we do a lot of feed barley. We just kind of got back into doing some feed wheat, and then quite a bit of canola. Here in Alberta, I don't know if you guys have the same thing going on with canola since it's newer for some of you guys, but canola can actually get diseases in it that other grains don't seem to get, like clubroot. And clubroot is a disease that once you have it, your soil has it, like it's a soil-borne disease. So you got to be very careful with how you grow canola. So most of the time we grow about 3 years of barley and then a year of canola. And then that helps prevent getting a disease in the soil and causing you to get clubroot.
That's interesting. So you're doing barley 3 years in a row then, and then canola every fourth? Is that what you mean, or?
Yeah, that's about, we've kind of squeezed it up a little bit just because canola is worth so much now and the price of land and equipment's so high, is that we've been doing about 2 years of barley and then a year of canola lately. But it is recommended that you do 3 years of barley and then a year of canola.
Huh, that's interesting. I don't think canola is brand new to us. We've been growing it for this will be our third year. This next upcoming 2019 harvest that we would be growing canola. Sounds like we're going to be planting just a little bit more than last year. I know almost nothing about canola because I always leave for college once we start rolling into cutting the canola. So I've been around it a little bit, but not an absolute ton. Interesting crop for sure. I think it's a good one to be getting into, but Canada, that's a big canola state. Is canola... Oh, it's not your number one crop, is it? What's the number one crop for Alberta?
Number one crop for Alberta right now, I would say, would be wheat, kind of wheat and canola. A lot of guys do a rotation of 2 years wheat and then a year of canola. A lot of people do, but Canada actually supplies about 40% of all canola, shipped to China. So Canada is a huge canola country, that's for sure.
Yeah. And it's interesting that we are seeing just not anything dramatic, but we definitely see a bit of an increase in canola down here in Montana too. But we definitely also share a lot of basically what you can grow in Alberta. Very closely matches Montana. We're much closer to you guys than we are Iowa and a lot of the Midwest there. So super interesting. But yeah. And then do you ever fallow anything, or do you try and keep things in a constant rotation?
They used to fallow quite a bit before my era. Like, I haven't seen any fallow land since I started farming. Probably I've been around the farm my whole life, but I started farming land of my own about 3 years ago. And
Nice.
I would imagine it's been about 7 years or so since we've followed everything. But we have quite a bit of land that has alkali ground, like salty soil. And if you let it fallow in salty soil, then that actually gets worse as time goes on.
Interesting. I'm just looking for, we got one or two other questions for you here. We have our cut right to the chase on this one, actually. So what is your favorite tractor brand?
My favorite tractor brand, well, that's representing here. There it is. Case IH. Oh, went the wrong way. I don't know why.
I think it's inverted on your side. And for some reason, this, you keep moving on me here. I don't know what is causing that. I gotta adjust this again here. It's nice that it at least lets me change this while I'm going live, so that I can just fix it on the fly. Maybe someday I'll have like an entire production team that'll just do all this in the background and I don't have to worry about it. That's not happening for a while. Anyway, you said you're Case IH. Keep going.
Yeah, Case IH. We got the history on that, I guess, was when my grandfather farmed with my great grandfather, and they started out with a Case or a John Deere. I can't remember what year it was now, but I guess when they bought it, kind of way back in the day, and it had steel wheels on it, and they changed them out for rubber tires. They traded with a guy, and they used that for years. And then after that happened, my grandpa went and bought a Case Model D, which I actually think there is some pictures of there. That old kind of orangey red Case tractor is a Model D, and that's what the John Deere got replaced with. And apparently at that time, I'm not trying to stir the John Deere guys up, but at that time...
We got a Mason from Cuz I Farm. He's not too happy about the Case IH thing. But
no,
you know what? You got to run what you got to run. I'm not going to say that I prefer Case IH over John Deere. I like them both, but they both have their pros and cons, and it's awesome talking to Case IH people. So next time, maybe we'll talk to a John Deere guy. But anyway, you were talking about, what was that one tractor you mentioned?
Yeah, it's a Model D. It was kind of one of the last, like the oldest pictures, right up from those two combines pictures I sent you there. Yeah, it's a Case Model D, and apparently at the time, yeah, there it is.
Sweet, got the right one.
At the time when Grandpa bought that tractor, I don't know the exact year. I imagine sometime 30s to 50s. I'm not sure in there, and it worked circles around the Case tractor. So after Grandpa had that happen, it was Case Farm after that.
And that's the wrong camera. That's the right camera. Man, I'm just out of it today. Hopefully this improves here before too long. But yeah, interesting. Let's see what we got here. Oh, my brother's asking us a question here. And this got bigger.
Yeah.
What is going on with my scaling? I need to figure out what's causing this. It's just like doing its own thing. I don't know why. I've never had this issue before, like ever. Well, oh, I bet I know what it is. I bet I know exactly what it is. Let me check some here. I don't know. I thought maybe my scroll wheel was doing something with it, but... Interesting. Alright. Gosh darn it, OBS. My brother is in the chat, by the way. And he's asking... Have you ever tried spreading straw on the alkali patches? He says he's heard it increases organic content and helps with that alkali. Which I actually...
We haven't tried that yet. We have heard that if you actually spread wood ash in alkali patches, that's supposed to help cure some of the problems of the alkali. So we've never actually tried it. We were actually considering this year. We burnt a bunch of brush, and we have a huge pile of ash out back. So we were going to consider... maybe cultivating in a little wood ash into an area of the field that we know has got alkali soil and see if that changes things.
That's not a bad idea. Farming's definitely one of those things where you're always figuring something out, that's for sure. And yeah, it is. Well, how would you explain it? How would you explain the culture of farming in one sentence? This one might be kind of hard.
Oh, no, not one sentence.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always explained it as it's a lifestyle. It's not, I don't know. It's a job and you're doing it to make money, to live. But at the same point, it's kind of one of the oldest forms of employment that this country had. And I don't know. You can't explain it in one sentence for sure. But if I had to, I'd say it's more of a way of life for sure.
Yeah, definitely agreeable. I think if you really want to be a farmer, you definitely have to have a passion for it. And that's what drives the lifestyle as well. But yeah, I think you sum it up pretty well when you say it's just a lifestyle. And that's why people do it. It's people that are passionate about feeding a lot of other people in this world. I really wish a lot of people in these more urban communities could see that. Just not the case. And it's going to take a lot of people like us telling our stories to even make a dent in that population. So, all right. Yeah.
Farms are getting so disconnected, or I guess the cities are becoming so disconnected from the farms that, well, actually the other day I went into the city and had a dentist appointment. And I come out of the dentist appointment, the lady sitting in the lobby realizes I got a Taylor Farms logo on my hat, and I got wearing a pair of dirty old ropers, and you could say my jeans probably weren't the cleanest for somebody that was going to a dentist. And I came out, and that lady immediately figured that I was a farmer, and we're out here and we're just slaving away and working hard, and like which we do. But at the same point, what they imagine is you're in the tractor with no cab and you're slaving hard all day. But I mean, that thing's got GPS and almost drives itself at this point. So they don't realize the amount of technology that has become relevant in farming in the last, probably 10 years has been a huge game changer in GPS.
Yeah, for sure. I've actually, just the other day, I had a conversation with somebody who had pretty much no ag background about this. And yeah, people are kind of amazed at how advanced a lot of things in agriculture are. And I definitely agree that a lot of people definitely do imagine that cabless tractor, and maybe like that farmers are not as intelligent as, like, there's a lot of very intelligent farmers out there, obviously. So people just don't think of that. They're going to think of the traditional stereotype that you see in all the storybooks and everything. Or they're going to think about these giant corporate factory farm type sinister. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't even go there. Basically something to also associate with the word Monsanto. And there's just some really negative connotations to a lot of those terms that aren't necessarily true. So that's why I do things like AgriLive and everything else on my channel, is because there are people that are not actively from farming backgrounds. They at least have the interest. That's why they're tuning into AgriLive tonight. But not everyone that's watching tonight is from a farm. And I also think there's some benefit to preaching to the choir for the farmers that are watching, because this is all a place where you can talk about some of these disconnects, analyze them even more, and help tell our stories to those people better. So, yeah, interesting stuff for sure. And then what is your closest city that you're to in Alberta?
We're kind of split right in the middle, but for big cities, kind of directly in between Calgary and Red Deer.
Okay.
We're kind of split right in the middle from there. Yeah, we're so I mean, if we have dealerships for case equipment within 20 minutes of us, if you go to a place like Olds or Airdrie. But if you kind of some of the bigger stuff or the bigger tools we don't have, or things like that usually need when it's a serious breakdown and you're trying to get going again fast, and you're stuck driving into Calgary, which is about 45 minutes to an hour from here. So I mean, you're disconnected from the city, but still you're only about an hour away, and if somebody gets in the truck, it don't take long.
Yeah, that's actually pretty awesome. Being away from Calgary far enough, but you're still within an hour to a population of over 1 million people. Not something that you have in Montana at all.
No.
We have, our biggest city is Billings. That is 120,000 people, so like a tenth of the size of Calgary. Bozeman is catching up. They're at about 100,000. That's where we're at right now, broadcasting from where Montana State University is. But yeah, if we go out to Winifred, though, the closest Walmart, for example, that we have is about at least 2 hours away. So,
Oh, man.
yeah, it gets super remote. The Missouri Breaks, they're cool and all, but it's about as far away from anything as you can get. Yeah, so the nearest town with 5,000 people is about an hour's drive away. And Winifred population is 200 there. So, yeah, it gets pretty remote. So that's why I appreciate being out in an open space on a farm, but still being within an hour to a big city. That, I think that'd be pretty cool and very handy in some ways, as you've mentioned, with if you got to make a parse run or just need access to a large center of population. So, and I can't remember, did I ask you how many acres your farm was?
Yeah, I mean, me and my uncle together, we farm about just about 1,500 acres, like you could say, and then we got some pasture land too, but that's all rented out. So
Nice.
I mean, by no means it's a large farm, but a comparison to kind of that makes it make more sense of our areas, that our soil is so good and so rich that we're pulling off. First time I've had it this year is 115 bushel per acre barley crop. And we're getting about 90 bushels per acre on feed wheat all the time. And we're about 60 bushels an acre, or 60, 70 bushels an acre on canola.
That's
so
excellent.
it's
by my
insane.
standards.
So we're able to farm smaller acres, but still have the same production as you guys have in Montana. Because sometimes you watch Nick Welker's videos and they're going through a dry patch in wheat and they're getting 20 bushel to the acre.
Yeah, that's I don't think we're usually quite that low, but we can get pretty close to that as an average for sure. We've seen 100 bushel wheat once, and from what I can remember, and that was in 2013. Excellent crop. It was right on that field where most of the along the edge footage was filmed. So it's interesting. That Breaks country has some of the best soil we've ever seen. It's probably not quite as good as what's up north where you're farming at, but it's been doing pretty well given kind of the generic state of Montana. Like, we'll compare it to like eastern Montana and even the Golden Triangle where Nick's at. So that's been awesome. That's not 100 bushel wheat isn't normal for us, but it was great that year. And then actually this last harvest we had pretty close to 100 bushel barley in some spots. But your land is it's pretty much just flat out there, right?
Yeah, we're not quite as flat as Saskatchewan, but, and I mean, it kind of depends on what side. Highway 2 runs right up the middle of Alberta. And if you're on the west side of Highway 2, you start getting in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, and you start getting hills and rockier soils. And if you're kind of east of Highway 2, then you're way more flat. And then as you get into Saskatchewan, things just start getting flatter and flatter all the way across there.
Yeah. I actually haven't been up to... Actually, I don't think I've been across the border at all, which is silly because I have a passport right there, and it's not that far away for me to do so. But yeah, both provinces I'd love to check out. Our custom harvest operation, the guys that come help us every year, their home farm is based in Hodgeville, Saskatchewan, which is, I think, not too far away from Swift Current. I don't know how... I assume you're fairly familiar with Saskatchewan, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they're out there, and just looking on Google Maps, whatever, definitely looks super flat out there, but I'm sure you wouldn't be too far off. Maybe a little more of the rolling type. Now...
Yeah, we got about... we're lucky too. Like, there's some farms around our area that have a few more hills and everything. But you can pretty much, if it was a hard surface, you could throw a bowling ball in there and it would almost stay in one spot. It is very flat where we are.
Yeah. Now, central Montana, not so much. It's definitely pretty open, but it is very rolling. Just kind of like big rolling hills. Not quite like Wisconsin or anything like that, but definitely some irregular field shapes, and definitely makes the farming side of things a lot more difficult in some situations. So keeps things interesting, that is for sure. We're not terrible with rocks though, so that's kind of nice. I think Nick struggles with that more than we do, but we definitely have to rock pick every now and then. Dylan, good to see you in the chat. Welcome back. If you guys are just joining us, we are talking to Nathan Taylor. He is from Central Alberta, so doing a little bit of, I mean, there's not much to compare because Montana is so similar, but kind of a comparison of agriculture here versus agriculture up in good old Canada. We're also talking about his experience getting into production agriculture. Maybe that's a good place to go next, is how exactly did you become a farmer? Like, what all did it take? And what's the second part of my question? Maybe I'll just leave it at that. Kind of your backstory on growing up. What made you decide to come to a farm and start farming full time?
Oh, it's as a kid, one of the, it's kind of strange story, but one of the different stories I guess I could tell is we went to a trip into Oregon, and I stayed in one of my uncle's trailers down there. And somehow or another, I ended up getting pink eye in harvest season. As I came home, they were combining around our house, and well, my dad and my uncle, and I guess at the time probably my great uncle as well, were combining around our house. And my favorite thing to do was go out and ride in the combine at night when the lights on the combine turn on. It's dark, you know. It just looks like robots running around the field when you got your 3-4 neighbors beside you all combining. And so I couldn't actually go out and ride in the combine with them. So pretty much at that point in my life, I was determined that farming was something that I was going to do, and I wanted to do because, you know, my dad had done it, my uncle had done it, my family's been doing it for generations. And when I wasn't able to partake in a harvest because of what happened, then I was kind of determined after that I would start. So it took quite a few years. My dad and my uncle farmed together. And then eventually my dad got out of farming and rented it to one of our neighbors, a good friend of ours. And for, I don't remember, about 3 years or 4 years. I kind of think it was about 4 years. And then at that time, me and my uncle had been talking, and I was helping him combine and helping him seed and doing all the things around the farm. So finally, he one day said, well, if you're going to be hanging around and farming, then you might as well farm your dad's land. So I went and talked to Dad and was able to pick up some of the acres that he had. And after that, I actually work as a millwright in Calgary. For a few years before I kind of in high school as a RAP program, as an apprentice, I started working in Calgary. So I did that for quite a few years. And the economy has been really bad the last little while. And so many people are applying to work as millwrights in companies. And when I go to apply somewhere, I say, oh, by the way, I need, springtime off because I got a farm. Oh, and by the way, I need 2 months off in the fall or 3 months off in the fall because I have to farm. Well, they have a stack of resumes so high that they're going to say, well, we're going to take somebody that's going to be here full time.
Yeah.
So now it's to the point where I don't quite farm enough acres to totally live on, but I farm enough acres that I make as much money as I did working in Calgary, starting out as an apprentice. So it's kind of the point where personally I need to expand more, as every young farmer needs to. And it's very hard to expand when there's less and less rented land all the time because the bigger farms are buying it out, or you're a young guy and you're trying to pound the pavement with some of the older farmers that have retired, and old farmers are stuck in their ways. And for a young guy to show up and want to take over farming their acres, you got to have a family name to back you up.
Yeah, definitely an interesting position to be in. I feel like there's a lot of agricultural operations. We were kind of like that for a while, still kind of are today, where it's just kind of the wrong size. for certain applications. So our example was actually we run around 200-ish beef cows. So just a basic black Angus cow-calf operation. It wasn't quite that big a little while ago. It was something that Dad started about 10 years ago and just started to kind of grow, but we needed some extra help with the cows, which meant that we needed to find a full-time employee to kind of act as a ranch hand and also help a lot on the farming side as well. And it's definitely a little bit tough when the demands for having a full-time employee were just at the very minimum of what we needed. And yeah, farming's kind of full of just little puzzles like that, I feel like. So yeah, and yeah, you need to expand. How many acres do you think you need to expand to then to make it all work without off-farm income?
To succeed without off-farm income, you need to make the equivalent to, say, if you wanted, I don't know, to make acre-wise, to make the equivalent without purchasing more equipment, without a lot of repair bills, you need a minimum of probably 400 acres here to accomplish enough money to have what would be the equivalent of an off-farm employment. But when you're young, you have to expand, and when you're dealing with somebody in your family that you farm with that farms a certain number of acres and he has enough to live off of, then you need to expand to more acres so that you can also live off of just the farm. It throws a wrench in a lot of things, because then we go from one combine to needing two, and then we use an older grain truck, we need a new tandem grain truck or something like that to keep up with the combine. But then if you get two combines, you need two trucks. Well, then as soon as you have two trucks, you need to hire another driver for the truck. So it kind of puts you in a hard place that if you expand by, say I pick up another 600 acres or something, we would need two combines and probably two tandem grain trucks to keep up with those two combines at harvest. And as soon as you do that, then you got to hire somebody else. But then you need more acres to pay that other person to work for you in the fall or seasonally. So as soon as you expand one thing, then you have to start expanding more and more things. And then at that point, you need more and more acres to pay for all the expanding. So you're between a rock and a hard place of, do you want to expand? And if you do, are you willing to enter that debt load of what it would take to start farming more acres?
Yeah, would you say farming's probably has one of the most stressful cash flows of any industry that you can think of, just because you got so much upfront expense?
Yeah, I would at a certain point, I would say, like, if you farmed about 1,500 acres in our area, your cash flow situation, if you've purchased some fairly newer equipment and had about 1,500 acres, you would be able to maintain that for quite a while. But if you start out like I am at 22 years old, well, actually I started out at 18 was my first year. And I can tell you that first year of farming, I used every dime I had saved working as a millwright and spent that on crop inputs for the year and surviving on that for a year. So the first 2 years that I farmed, I was pretty much had to maintain a off-farm employment job as every day that I could manage to go back to work, so I could pay for, my farming operation. So for the first 2 years I farmed, it was stressful. It's like, am I making the right decision farming versus just going to work? At this point, I would be better off. But on my third year of farming, the farm is able to support itself without purchasing more equipment and still living at home.
Yeah, it definitely links back to your between a rock and a hard place for sure. And as far as off-farm income goes, like, at least for the time being, you've had that millwright job where you could just run into, you said it was in Calgary, right?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few different millwright work ends up kind of like shutdowns oil field quite often, or like smaller jobs that they pay more for the jobs, but they're, short little 3-4 day runs, which works out good for farming because you're able to leave for 3 or 4 days and everybody else can maintain what they're doing.
I think I just got distracted here for a sec. I think I just figured out what's going on with your video feed here. It seems every time Skype almost drops the call, there's every once in a while we lose a few frames and the sound gets a little jarbled up on your Skype call, and then for some reason OBS is throwing your feed back to a default resolution. But anyway, back to subject here. Yeah, I guess where I was going with talk about off-farm income, at least somebody like you has a lot of options because you have a center of population. And it just did that now. Interesting. We're gonna be messing with this all night. Yeah, welcome to AgriLive, everybody. We're having lots of technical difficulties, so it's been a really fun time.
Welcome to rural Canadian internet.
Oh, it's horrible in Montana too.
That's
not bad,
one
though.
thing with the election coming up is few people on their platforms for the election is that they want to have better rural internet for Canadian farmers, more or less, which is something that we have been lacking for sure.
We're doing the same thing here too. Lots of I had to put together a couple videos for a guy named Russell Nemitz. He's an ag broadcaster down here. He's been on, like, every once in a while you'll see him on RFD TV too. But anyway, he was in DC last fall covering a bunch of lobbying for our Federal Communications Commission to basically put more of an emphasis on, put more energy towards, the rural broadband, 5G, cell service, all that. We have horrible cell service in Montana too. Actually, we don't have any on the farm. It's Wi-Fi or nothing out there. But yeah, there's so many places, even in the US here, that are still on satellite internet or have limited cell service. It's kind of crazy that we're in 2019 and we don't have great communication. And back to the off-farm income thing again, lots of jobs that you can do from home, from the computer. Like, so much of what I do right now is all just sitting here at this desk, and all I need is an internet connection. And a lot of people just flat out can't do that because they have data caps on their internet. Their internet's slow. Like satellite internet, the Skype call probably wouldn't be working too. Actually, are you on satellite internet right now, or?
No, we're not on a satellite internet, but we're on it. Internet works really good here from about 8 o'clock till about 4 o'clock. And
Okay.
at that time, everybody that doesn't farm is coming home from their off-farm employment and starts using the internet, or kids get off of school and they start using the internet. And as soon as that happens, your internet goes to a epically slow rate.
Yeah, so there's a lot of slow speeds out there still. Are you on? So you do at least have, is it like a wireless type internet, or is it cable or DSL out there?
No, it's a wireless internet for sure. We got
Okay.
we got a tower actually, which is embarrassing, is it's only about 2-3 miles away from us, and it's pretty bad internet to realize that you can actually see the cell tower from outside my front door, or to see the internet tower from outside the front door.
Yeah.
But then you go back inside and can't stream Netflix.
Oh, that's awful. We're very, very, very lucky to have fiber optic to the home installed out in the Winifred area. There are reasons that happened that are kind of rare, mostly to do with connecting up Indian reservations, and we happen to live along the line. But excellent phone company that has been pushing hard to get that done. We just don't see that all over the place like we should. Even so I'm sitting in Bozeman right now. Bozeman is the tech capital of the state, basically. You got all sorts of stuff here. But you can go just maybe 4 miles north of Bozeman, nothing for internet. You got to go satellite or the wireless like you have. So yeah, that's kind of frustrating in a way for a lot of people. And the Midwest is like that. Up where you're at sounds like it's like that. Definitely. Yeah, hopefully better internet actually comes in the future, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, interesting how politics have definitely been active in those segments as well, as you've mentioned. Samson, good to see you again. I think it's been a while since you have been in an episode of AgriLive. Today we are talking to a guy from Canada, as you've probably figured out. He is 22 years old, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 22 years old and just farming away up there. Wheat, barley, and canola. It's just those three crops, right?
Yeah, just those three
Yep.
crops.
Cool.
People do grow peas around us, but we don't grow any peas. So
Yeah, we didn't this last year. I don't know if we're planting any this year or not. They're a pain too. They're a pain for us. Just the combination of conditions we have. Not perfect fields and just kind of an absolute pain to transport as well. We don't run them through the grain cart at all. So combines have to dump straight into the trucks. We just got a pea auger put on our 8230 combine. That helps a little bit, but yeah, I don't know if you'd like farming peas or not up there, but interesting crop for sure, at least.
yeah, for sure. I hear that it's hard on kind of the combines and whatever, because you're running the headers so low to the ground to pick up the peas because it's so short that you're sucking up rocks and everything else into the combine. So we've always avoided that and went with the taller crops where your life of your combine should hopefully be better. But we all know combines are high wear piece of equipment, and the combine doesn't last anyway. So
yeah, that's where we really struggle with our irregular fields too, is 40-foot header plus not perfectly flat field plus peas equals, it's a lot of fun for the combine driver. And then it's really easy to crack the peas too. That's why they don't go through the grain cart for us. We eliminate as many transfer steps as possible so that we don't end up having issues like that. But once again, kind of an interesting crop. I don't know if it's something we're going to stick with for the long term, but kind of cool, and kind of cool how pretty much all of that goes over to the other side of the world to feed countries like India. So, and everything that they use dry peas for. All right, well, I think what we'll do now is, over on my other monitor here, I have a bunch of photos that Nathan has sent in. This will be kind of like what we did with Sam the other week. We're going to go ahead and pick some random photos here, and maybe we'll hear the stories behind some of these photos. This will be a good way to get to know Nathan's operation just a little bit more. And what have we got going on here? This looks really interesting. Let me flip the camera over here. What on earth is this?
that is something that my retired great uncle decided he was going to do as a hobby. That right there is actually 2 steel wheels. I can't remember exactly what it came off of. Then the red piece, kind of where a guy would stand to run the steering wheel, is actually off an old disc vine he tore apart. And the tank part of that makes it look like a steam engine is actually one of our neighbor's old water heaters out of his basement. So my uncle has always had a great appreciation for the kind of case steam engines. So he decided one day that he was going to build one of his own and put that outside his house. He actually, I don't know, there's another picture, but he ended up painting it all up and writing Taylor Tractor Co.
Let's see if we can find that real quick.
And ended up kind of putting that at the end of his laneway for some yard art.
That's pretty sweet. I don't know where the other photo is. Maybe we'll eventually find it here again. But yeah, that looks pretty... Oh, I found it. That looks pretty sweet right there. So we'll cut back here real quick. Taylor Tractor Ltd. Yeah, that looks really nice. Definitely some cool yard art for sure. We don't have a whole lot for yard art ourselves, but we also live in the middle of nowhere, so it's not like that many people can enjoy it anyway. But we have a sign at the front of our farm. That's about it.
He worked at a museum in Carstairs, volunteered a lot of time, and kind of gave on loan a lot of equipment from the farm to put in the museum. He also worked at the museum, kind of telling people about what the equipment was and how it worked and everything else. So he's got a knack for some of the older antique stuff, and that's why in the background of that picture you see some more of it stacked up on blocks, showing off some of the equipment that we used to use. I mean, well, I guess I never did, but my grandpa and my great grandpa used to actually farm, and now we're using it as yard art.
Huh. That's pretty cool. Well, I got another photo here. A tractor that I don't know if I've ever seen anything No, I've seen at least this tractor brand, obviously, but this particular tractor, this is a little foreign to me. I've never seen one before. So what is this?
That is a Case IH 4494. That tractor was kind of the main tractor for quite a few years. It's a 4-wheel drive. I think it's 180 horsepower-ish.
Okay.
It doesn't articulate, but that was when Case was still white.
Yeah, so back before the merge with International.
Yeah, and then
That's
they
right.
started painting it red.
Yeah, that's where I'm saying I don't see. I rarely see Case tractors, like pre-Case International Case tractors. I've seen maybe like 2 or 3 in my life, so it's interesting. Not common down here for sure. But
in the later years of the 44 series, like the 4494s actually were made in red. Like that, the era of that tractor was a couple of years before Case merged with International, and they started painting everything red.
Interesting for sure. All right, I got just a couple reminders for the audience. Number one, by the way, if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking to a guy from Canada about farming in central Alberta. Super interesting episode tonight. Announcements. Number one, I'll say this again. I said at the beginning of the episode, farm video submissions are open tonight, and we might actually eventually get to a couple of those at least tonight. So there's a brand new form. That means if you've submitted before, you need to resubmit if you have submitted before the broadcast started tonight. We'd love to watch some of those. Nathan will be here with me to watch them too, so that'll be awesome. Number two, got a question for you from the chat. This comes from, how do I pronounce that? Shootle Farm and Ranch. No, I just completely butchered that. Anyway, he's asking, how do you guys use any cover crops? Here in Nebraska, we started to put in rye as a cover crop.
So we actually don't do cover ops on our farm operation, but there are some guys that do cover crops around us, but it's not the most common of things. Most of the time, I think, is the same as you guys have in Montana, is where in the springtime you go out, you seed it, spray it after seeding season when it starts to grow, and then we swath, then combine in the fall, and after that it just lays dormant and snow goes on it for half the year, and next year we do it all again. But we don't end up doing any cover crops most of the time.
Yeah, pretty much same thing here. Most of our crop rotations are, I think we try and fallow once every 3 years usually. I see a lot of, we start with winter wheat, go to spring wheat, maybe go to barley, peas, or canola, and then a year off. Or we might do that in a slightly different order too. But yeah, definitely nothing with rye though. That is not what we do around here. And sounds like not what you guys do. There's no rye up in Alberta, is there?
I would have had to ask my great uncle about this before I started, but I do remember him telling me a story one time, maybe about some rye, kind of up by his place, where I don't know if it got damp or something, or you had to combine at a specific time of the day for the best quality. And he said if you didn't, it used to not thrash, and then it would wrap around the rotor in the combine and actually plug the combine up. So as far as I know, we probably did some rye back in the day, but I haven't seen rye done for many years myself.
Interesting. I don't think we've ever, I think in the history of the Slivka farms at least, I don't think it's ever been done. And it's just now that we're getting into a lot more of the peas and canola compared to what we've done in the past. All right, ready for another picture here. Let's flip back here. Looks like we got a swather here. So what's this doing here?
That is a swather that we used. We swath pretty much everything before it gets combined. We don't have any straight cut headers in our area yet. I mean, guys around us have some straight cutters, but it's not as popular because we have a lot of, in the morning, the grain is wet. Till about midday, you can start combining your grain again until the frost comes on. and then you got to stop combining again. So we actually find that if the grain is left standing, when the frost comes on at night, all the heads of the grain become moist, become wet, and it all collects a certain amount of moisture. Whereas if it's swathed in a windrow, then only the top layer of that windrow is actually getting moisture at night. So therefore, when you're combining, you're blending the top layer with the dry layer underneath, which allows you to combine earlier in the, well, I guess not earlier in the day, but it allows you to combine later at night, so that only the top layer has the moisture.
That's really interesting. Something we don't do, but that's really popular up there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very popular. I mean, the way that the climate has been a little bit warmer the last few years, some guys around us have bought straight cut headers and have had pretty good success with that. Like last year, actually, I don't know if you have it or not, but there's a video I sent you kind of with me in the swather actually driving beside the combine. So this year we did quite a few acres. We probably did about 400 acres, I'd say, where I actually swathed in the swather directly in front of the combine, and my great uncle combine behind me, and my uncle drove truck. So more or less it was a straight cut header, but not quite.
Interesting. Is this in this 2018 harvest video that you have here?
Yeah, it should be in there for sure.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, I think I got it right here. Yeah. Go ahead and flip back, and I'm just going to play a little bit of this back to everybody while we talk here. Is this what... Oh, it just skipped around on me. I think it was somewhere around in here. Maybe a little farther
I think
back.
It was behind there a little bit. Back farther than that yet.
Farther than this?
Kind of right there is about right there where you kind of see my reflection in the cab as I'm videoing the combine.
So you're in the swather right now.
Yeah, so that's me standing on the hood of the swather.
Okay.
I'm looking towards the combine as we take a sample.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. That's it there.
All right.
So you can see my head bobbing around because I'm bouncing through the field, but I'm actually swathing beside the combine there, and my uncle is actually picking up that crop behind me as we go. There we go. Here's a picture of it. So.
Yeah, there we go.
Like I said, this year would have been a good year for guys to straight cut because we were obviously cutting right in front of the combine. So a straight cut header would have been good this year, but in some previous years, you have to swath. The straight cut header wouldn't work.
Yeah, I definitely see this in a lot of videos that come out of Canada regarding harvest, and definitely never see it. I mean, it makes sense why, because we talked about it here just a couple minutes ago, but yeah, don't really see this down in the States, that's for sure.
Yeah, and in
Maybe
those pictures
places
there that just showed up, the kind of haze in the background is
I'll go
British
back
Columbia
here.
was on fire. And
yeah, right here.
Yeah, about right there. Kind of, it doesn't help with the sun coming down, but you can see that it's kind of got a haze in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And that's this fall. BC was on fire, like quite a lot of forest fires in BC. So that actually created kind of some different temperatures during harvest, actually.
Yeah, we definitely had a lot of smoke come our way too during harvest. I think most of ours got pushed from Oregon and Washington when they were having some pretty bad times with fires there. But these last 2 years, 2018 and 2017, have both been super hazy, smoky years for this whole region of the continent. So, yeah, and we got really, I think it was the hottest harvest that I've ever seen last year. We were, once again, these are going to be Fahrenheit temperatures, so I'll see if I can convert this for you real quick. Because we got to about 107 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be up to 42 Celsius.
Oh, yeah.
It was hot. It was.
Yeah, during harvest, we see temperatures kind of around, I would say, that 25 degrees Celsius area, like somewhere in there usually. But obviously with the smoke we had, it was kind of creating a lot of drier temperatures this fall, which is why we were able to actually swath right in front of the combine.
Yeah, interesting. Well, let's see. Should we watch? We may as well just finish watching some of this footage here. Now, you just had generic stock music on this video, right? No narration or anything?
Yeah, there's nothing worth listening to. So right about here, some snow weather actually rolled in. You can see we've got some of it combined and some of it laying in swaths, some of it still standing. And we got some serious snow. It started out with a light amount. And then in a later picture, it shows you about how much snow we did get. So we finally got harvesting again after the snow. And we started with canola because the canola actually has airspace between the pods, which allows it to dry out faster than the barley and the wheat do because the air can blow through it. So usually after a snow or a rain, sometimes you can combine canola before you can actually start combining wheat or barley again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So right here, that's about the last 3 swaths we had at canola. So we finished up combining canola, and my great uncle happened to be driving the combine as we switched over to go back into some wheat, and he left the auger out halfway and actually kind of tore the auger off the side of the combine. So I was in the truck actually, and in the CB had told him, "Hey, you better quit." So he's kind of like, "Oh, why? What's going on?" I said, "Well, he just actually drove into that power pole." So we went back to the yard there, and so my dad's an electrician, so he actually has a scissor lift we used. Because we started out trying to lift the auger off the combine with the loader and the tractor. And if anybody's ever driven a tractor with a loader, it is not a precision instrument by any means to be removing an auger off a tractor when it's on a spline shaft and a gearbox. So I actually went home and got my dad's scissor lift, and you were able to drive underneath and lift the auger up, kind of block it up a little bit and drive backwards with it, which worked really good.
Yeah. That's pretty handy. We may have had an incident with our auger 2 or 3 years ago. That's what happens when Grandpa drives the combine sometimes. It has a tendency to hit things it's not supposed to be hitting sometimes. So far, the accident report on our farm is, let's see. The worst one was when we accidentally hit the service truck in the middle of a very dusty night. I guess Grandpa, he just finished cutting. He was ready to shut down for the night. This was back when we had our 2388. He's just kind of cruising along. All of a sudden, something catches on the edge of the header, and it's quite sudden. And so he jerks back on his hydrostatic handle, of course, throws the whole thing in reverse, and then just had those big side mirrors on it, just tore that right off. And so that resulted, because that mirror was bolted in like 3 or 4 places on the door, like they were the heavy duty style mirrors. That door was done. This is like an 80s Dodge 1-ton service body pickup, basically. Yeah, just absolutely tore that door and put a big dent in his generator / welder too. But we got it all fixed up, ready for the next day, because that generator had to work. That's how we had to pump fuel out of the thing. Anyway, it was a mess that night. So, farm accidents, they're always fun, but luckily, it's just what you gotta do. You just gotta fix the issue and keep going with whatever you're doing. So, and then, yeah, I think we backed our auger up into a power pole once. So that was not a cheap fix, unfortunately. That was with the 8230, so. This video cut to a different section when I hit the number pad key, didn't it? So we were here. Yeah. This is where we're at.
Yeah, so being a millwright actually allows me to have a lot more skills with working with gearboxes and shafts and augers, not only at the farm, but also at work in the city, working on some grain handling facilities that we work on. So I was actually able to repair the auger that we had.
Oh, nice.
And get it all put back together using the lathe, and patched up the piece of tin work that was all broke. I welded up a new flange for it, and we started harvesting again. And for about 30 minutes we harvest this fall, and the fan ended up coming off and going right through the radiator.
That's harvest for you, though. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and we were down for about 3 days because of that, and we were the last ones of our neighbors at that point who were not done combining, because we had been down for quite a few days trying to get parts for that auger and everything else. And then we got going, and as you can imagine, radiators are not something that they stockpile at the parts store. So that had to get ordered in, and we didn't realize actually that the gearbox had a bent shaft in it when we started going again. So that's why the auger came back off one more time, and we fixed that gearbox up, got going, and then our neighbors finally had enough of us saying no, that we wouldn't take their help.
What is this?
That is not ours.
What on earth?
That is our neighbor's, and I'm very thankful that his piece of green machinery was in our field.
Yep. That's what's awesome about neighbors, and what not a whole lot of people out there really notice about the farming community is the farmers helping farmers. You see it all over the place. As you're aware, Nebraska, a lot of Iowa, there's other states down there too. I think Missouri, even like South Dakota, even parts of Montana, actually, not in good shape right now. The flooding that has happened in all of those places has been absolutely ridiculous. So it's pretty awesome to, like, when I go on Facebook and I see a viral video of this whole convoy of trucks of round bales coming into Nebraska to help out those guys. And you have all these little kids that are all on the road jumping up and down as all the trucks are coming in and honking their horns and everything. I thought that was pretty cool, but yeah, farmers helping farmers. It's pretty much needed in this industry for sure. So, yep, good thing the green machine came to help you guys out while you were having some issues there. Anyways, that's pretty much the end of your video here. Do you have anything left?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just a couple more pictures of the neighbors helping us out. So yeah, actually, we ended up having 2 neighbors brought over combines, and one other neighbor brought over one of his trucks. So we were hauling with our truck and then his tandem, the blue one there on the side. And so he was able to keep up with 2 combines with his truck, and we could keep up with just one with ours pretty much. And we got her done, and I've never seen anything at combine quite that fast in my life before. So,
yeah, pretty neat. Looks like overall pretty good harvest though. All right. I've not seen much of anything happening in the chat here, so maybe I should remind everybody that you can use hashtag #AskNathan. Ask him a question while we have him here about his operation. It's okay if it's a little redundant. We have people coming and leaving, it looks like. So everybody always gets asked, how many acres do you farm? What do you grow? Blah, blah, blah. John Deere, Case IH, like very repetitive questions usually during these sorts of things, but no problem at all. Meanwhile, I got to jump over here and check a couple forms. So I'm trying to think of a question that I have to ask you myself. What's something we haven't really covered? Yeah, go ahead.
I think actually up in the chat at the very top, somebody asked kind of what's the scariest thing that's ever happened on the farm.
Oh, yeah, I think I saw
and
that.
And there's definitely a picture to back that up. If you scroll through there quickly, there's a picture kind of a tractor parked and then some lights on a fire truck behind me, or behind the tractor up on the road. And I guess I could tell that story of kind of exactly what happened there, and as to why we do not do anhydrous anymore, and this is the first year that we're changing away from that.
Trying to find your picture here. Is it more recent or?
Yeah, maybe not actually. It's kind of in the middle of that group of photos, right. I guess.
And I'm looking for something with fire truck lights in the background.
Yeah, it's a dark picture with some red fire truck lights in the back, and then kind of a bright light pointing at, because they were lighting up the ground around to see.
Okay, so it was taken at night.
Yeah, it was taken at night. So so what happened, I guess I can start, is I was putting anhydrous down with our Case IH Steiger, a 9330 Steiger, and we were putting some anhydrous in, and my uncle was kind of across an oil field lease road from me, harrowing on another field, and I got to the end of the field, and I was about to turn around, and I realized that like a wad of straw, wet straw, had started wrapping around a shank on the cultivator itself. And when that ball of straw actually wrapped around the shank, it kind of hit the valve stem on the tire, And when it hit the valve stem, it popped the tire and lost all sorts of air. So I stopped, and the only way to actually get the lumps off without getting out of the cab is to back up. Well, as you can imagine, when you have a pivot point on the tractor, and then you have a pivot point on the back of the cultivator to where the hitch for the anhydrous cart hooks up, then you have a pivot point again underneath the anhydrous cart. When you try and back all that up, everything goes sideways and starts twisting, and you can back up, but everything starts going crazy. So I started backing up, and as that happened, the pivot on the anhydrous wagon turned, which caught the hose, the main feed hose for the anhydrous cart, and actually put a big puncture in it. Well, at that point, I could actually hear in the cab over the sound of the engine, kind of like sounds like a jet engine taking off. And I look backwards. Currently, I was on the phone asking to get a spare tire brought to me for the cultivator. And all of a sudden, I hear this jet engine noise, and I look backwards and realize when I had backed up and it was fine, but when I started going forwards again, it pulled itself back straight and it caught that hose. Well, I hear this jet engine sound, and I look backwards, and there's a plume of white anhydrous ammonia coming out of the tank. And that stuff is very, very hazardous. If you get caught in a cloud of it, you die. Like, there's no...
Oh, yeah.
You get a whiff. I mean, if you get a whiff of anhydrous ammonia, it clears your sinuses out and starts making you cough and everything. So what they claim is an anhydrous ammonia. For one drop of anhydrous ammonia on your skin, it takes 4,000 drops to actually neutralize that amount, because anhydrous ammonia attaches to water, and your body's made of so much water that when the anhydrous ammonia attacks you, it would eat a hole right through you. So if you get caught in a plume of all that gas, well, you die instantly. So I panic, and I throw the track, and I'm right beside my neighbor's house when this happens. And he has cattle out back pretty much a couple 100 feet from where this tank blows out. So immediately I start slamming gears in it and put it in road gear going across the field. At this point, my uncle on the other side of the lease road realizes what's happening to me, as well as a few other neighbors that were seating around realized, because by this time we had a huge plume of white anhydrous ammonia cloud following me. And I ripped across the field to the very far end, which was the best wind direction. And the wind started blowing the anhydrous ammonia in a safe direction away from everybody else. And I was able to get out of the cab and move upwind of it. And me and my uncle sat there and watched the anhydrous tank blow out. So as that was happening, the protocol is to actually phone 911 and your dealer who supplies you with the anhydrous. So I phoned the dealer, and they didn't end up actually coming out, which was surprising. But the fire department was fighting a grass fire about 3 miles up the road. So they had put the fire out, and they were actually driving right by our yard. So they were there in a couple of minutes. But in that couple of minutes, we had lost the whole tank already. So by the time they got there, they just kind of used it as a training exercise to go out, suit up and go out and shut that tank off. So at that point, my heart was still racing, and I was like, that's it. I'm done with anhydrous ammonia for nitrogen. Yep. We're going to start using urea pellets. And since then, this is the first year that we are going to go without anhydrous for quite a few years now.
Oh, really? We've never used it, so I guess that might be part of the reason why. Yeah, that's scary, for sure. Glad you made it out all right, for sure, on that sort of deal. Oh, yeah, that pretty much answers that question, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was probably the scariest thing I guess I've ever had happen to me on the farm, and something that after that happened, I said this is going to be my last year of using that anhydrous ammonia. So.
Interesting how one moment like that can completely change a viewpoint on something sometimes, or at least cause you to make a decision based upon an event that happened. I'm pulling up one more of your pictures here. And then I actually do see that we have a few videos that we can watch real quick before wrapping up for tonight. So I'll go ahead and cut over to this. This is one of your more recent ones. Looks like we're loading up some grain of some sort in a Super B truck.
Feed barley.
Feed barley.
Yeah. So and the other thing I wanted to kind of mention after watching your video at the last professional cart driver there was he made reference to the Canadian high-sided trucks. So your guys' Super Bee down there, because, I'm not sure if you have Super Bees or what you call them, but because of your road bans and everything, your guys' U.S. grain trailers are a lot smaller than ours. So this is actually 2,000 bushels of feed barley get shipped at a time.
That's pretty sweet.
So when you come to Canada and you start complaining that our roads are totally destroyed and pounded out, and there's cracks everywhere and big potholes, it's because the government allows semi-truck drivers to run 2,000 bushels of 58-pound feed barley down the road.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Can't do that here, that's for sure. But which actually Alberta doesn't have that bad at roads, does it? Always seems like Saskatchewan, at least from what I've heard. And
yeah, Saskatchewan has some epically bad roads.
Yeah, like a gravel road is almost better than something that's paved in some cases. There, it's pretty. Yeah. I actually did go on Google Maps, like Street View, one day sometime. Just looked at some paved side roads or even like paved major highways, and not a bunch of road there. It's pretty narrow. And a lot of potholes and all sorts of things there. So, yeah. Well, is there any other photos that you want to look over real quick that stands out to you, or are we ready to watch a little bit of action from a couple other farms here?
Oh, we might as well watch a little action from some other farms, and I guess if you wanted to, you could throw in that one video that I had on YouTube that kind of hauling grain out. It's a little bit of a drone video, but other than that, there's probably we've covered most of farming in Canada.
I think we covered a lot. There's a guy named Dawson in the chat says, "No way, I've seen that semi before in Alberta." By that semi, I think he is referring to, where did that picture go? Here's another picture of it. Is it this one right here that you saw? Like this exact one? Bit of a small world thing that might be happening here. I just don't know if there's a lot of trucks that would have this particular paint scheme on them.
No, that's actually that's a cousin of mine. He farms as well as he trucks, and he hauls a lot of grain in our area for sure. And Spady Farms is what he calls himself.
Oh yeah, and, you can see it. You can see it right there.
Yeah, on the side there. So yeah, he actually, we sell almost all of our grain to a grain broker called Core 9 Commodities, and Core 9 Commodities is actually relatives of ours as well. They're based out of Lacombe, but they buy a lot of feed barley kind of around our area. My grandmother was actually a Spady, and Spadies and the Mottses are related, so that's why Lyle hauls a lot of grain for the Mottses, and Core 9 Commodities is because gets a little related around. And then so Lyle gets a lot of work for Core 9, and I started selling all my grain to Core 9 this year.
Huh, interesting. That's pretty cool. Looks like the guy in the Dawson actually recognizes that truck, though. Small world for sure. AgriLive, we cover audiences. I mean, our primary audience, from what I've seen, is lots of the Midwest U.S., even out east, like to the eastern coast, maybe a little bit on the western as well, up into Canada. And despite anybody in the world being able to watch, somebody recognizes a truck off of a stream. That's pretty funny. All right.
Yeah, Dawson says he follows him on Instagram as well. If you check out my Instagram, there's always pictures or videos of Lyle on there as well, because he's constantly hauling grain for us.
Yeah, speaking of Instagram, is that kind of a platform as far as your ag advocacy goes? It seems like, from what I've seen at least, Instagram is kind of what you're really trying to grow as far as being able to communicate what you do on the farm.
Yeah, I definitely use Instagram a lot because I just kind of bought a drone this year, so I've been starting to get into more kind of YouTube things. So there's a few videos on the way for sure, but the Taylor Farms Instagram account is where I've been posting a lot of what happens lately. So yeah, you can see there, a lot of farm repairs and everything else are done by me because of my background as a millwright, and couple rat rods and everything else that goes on. But I guess farmers got a shop, so they got to play in it a little bit. So the projects get a little different, that's for sure.
Interesting. Well, if you guys want to give him a follow, he is Taylor Farms on Instagram. Taylor_farms, followed by another underscore there. If you just type in Taylor Farms, I'm sure it'll be like the first result. I see quite a few posts here. I've been following you for at least a little while here. Great little Instagram page if you want some unique farming action that's not just a bunch of pictures of a bunch of John Deere tractors. Not that that's bad, but I just noticed a lot of accounts do that. Cool stuff, but this is different, which is what I like about your Instagram. So anyway, we need to take a really, really short break, and we're going to watch a few videos and call it good as far as the stream. So thank you guys all for being here. It's been awesome. And let's go ahead and find the Let's Take a Break screen with the piano music that we always have to comment on before we go to the actual screen, which is, oh, it's this button right here. All right, give us 2 minutes, and we'll be back. All right, we're back. We're back from our break, and here's Nathan. You guys ready to watch some farm videos? We got 2, maybe 3 of them to get through, so we're going to get right to it. First submission on the screen is going to be coming from... Oh, no, how do I pronounce that? It's that Roblevsky. How do you pronounce that? I'm really bad at pronouncing things tonight, so I'm sorry. But looks like we got a cow feeding video. Let's go ahead and full screen this real quick and hit the play button. And actually, no, let's not do that yet. Got to unmute the computer audio first. Now we can hit play. So we're feeding some cows, it looks like. And this is drone footage sped up. So like a drone time lapse. Kind of interesting. I never caught where this is at. Still grabbing some... I'm curious on what these cows are. What do you think this is, Nathan? What's going on here?
Bale feeding cows.
Oh, yeah. So I got a John Deere tractor of some sorts. He's going to go out into that pasture. He's got 2, looks like kind of older round bales that he's just going to lay out. One's
It's always interesting to see the amount of equipment that guys have, like that excavator sitting there as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We don't have an excavator. That would be kind of fun to have sometimes, but... We have a skid steer. That's about the closest we're going to get to an excavator.
I think that's one thing people don't realize is the amount of equipment farmers have to own to actually operate a business.
Yeah.
And the price of that equipment.
Yep. Or maybe if you do have a big fancy new combine or tractor or something like that, it always seems like people label you as a more quote-unquote corporate, profit maximizing, I'm in it only for the money type operation. Obviously not true. It's just equipment that family farmers need sometimes to sustain their operation and make sure that it's there for the next generation.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize that combines are usually what the most money gets spent on, because there's only a limited amount of days that you have to harvest something when you get snow almost instantly. So the combine is something that's always newer and better than the rest because it has to perform.
You can't have it be broken down all the time. Like, well, we were watching your harvest video there, and you were broke down for a little while, and you just flat out had to get, you know, you had to rely on the neighbors to help you out to get the crop out in a timely manner. Yeah,
when you lose about a week of prime harvest weather, that puts you in a bad spot.
That's
for sure.
a lot to lose for a harvest. That's kind of a neat video, though.
That's awesome.
Eric, that's his name. That was really cool. Unique editing there. Some unique drone camera work for sure. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Yeah, hopefully you submit some other stuff here in the future for the additional episodes of the Watching Your Farm videos. Anyway, I have the applause sound effect up as always. So thank you very much, Eric, for submitting that. I don't think I see you here in the chat tonight. Let us know if you are here with us, though. But good to know that the new system is working. We got one more to look at. And this one is going to be a little bit longer. I might have to skip around this one a little bit, honestly. But this one's going to have a really interesting title to it, that's for sure. Let's flip back to the screen here. This is Helping a Farmer in Need by Operator Eric. Let's see what's going on here.
Square bales, flat beds.
I don't know if he explains in the video what he means by that title or not. I mean, it's self-explanatory, but kind of funny we were just talking about this, though.
Work boots, open doors.
Let me go ahead and lower this audio volume just a little bit.
That's another thing I will say about farmers is it's a bit more of a laid-back lifestyle in the way that, you know, farmers aren't always going to put themselves above everybody else. Like, I know a lot of our neighbors and us too, you know, if you got to sacrifice a couple hours out of your day to help a neighbor get going or fix something, or, you know, give him a hand doing something he can't do by himself, that's something that farms do. And a lot of, you know, a lot of people in the cities don't realize that, you know, we're not out here just hanging out and combine and whatever. I mean, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, actually, if you're doing a cow-calf operation, at least Central Montana works like this. It's always neighbors helping neighbors for shipping and branding the cows. Or the calves, I should say. Shipping, we don't have a ton of trailer space to use to get our calves out to load up onto the big rigs. Basically, the semis pull into the town of Winifred. We got to get the cows, or the calves, from the ranch back into town to load up on those trucks. That takes a lot of neighbors donating pickup trucks and horse trailers to get those calves over to town. Branding, you just need the extra help to get a bunch of stuff, but get a bunch of calves branded in a short amount of time. So I'll put that. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit in this video, I think, see if anything changes much. Oh, we got a different song. Country Roads Take Me Home. Now, I don't think the guy who submitted this video is in the chat either. If you are, please let us know. We'd love to talk to you.
I think Operator Eric, I think, is in there.
Oh,
saying
was
it's
he?
one of one of 3 combines there.
It was right in front of my face the whole time. Sorry I missed you there, Operator Eric. Oh man, that's embarrassing. Yeah. Well, thanks for submitting. I'm gonna get a bunch of heck for not properly reading the chat now. Thanks for correcting me on that though, Nathan. This is a really cool high altitude drone shot though, just looking almost straight down on that field though. Combine's leaving. Don't know why. Why is he out of the frame now? Why did he leave the field? Now he's back. Oh, no grain cart. That was probably it.
Oh yeah, had to go dump.
Yeah. Truck must have been sitting outside of the field or something.
Yeah, drone footage is something that's really changing. I don't know if the U.S. laws are different than the Canadian laws, but actually April 1st, Transport Canada made it so that you had to register and get your license to fly a drone that weighs over 250 grams now.
Yeah, we're very similar in the U.S. actually. So let's see if I have it actually. I think it's in my wallet somewhere. So we have different rules for different applications of drones, and it's through our Federal Aviation Administration. So same entity that governs anything to do with airspace. You have to register your even like little toy drone if it is between half a pound and 55 pounds of aircraft weight that you fly. Doesn't matter if it's personal or commercial, you still have to register with the FAA. Not everybody does. That's just what the rules say. If you're flying commercially, you gotta get one of these right here. This is a Part 107 card. And basically, I gotta go to the airport, take a test, which is a bunch of basic aeronautical knowledge, like sectional charts, how to read weather reports, drone questions as well, obviously. And you get one of these, and it costs like $100 to get one of these too. But you have to have one, technically, to fly commercially. And honestly, this is great for advertising for me more than anything, because if I'm trying to get work with the drone, I can say I have one of these. But yes, it is interesting, the regulation that is taking place with drones. And when you get into cities, you do have some issues with it. That's why our governments are doing this, but yours is through Transport Canada, right?
Yeah, Transport Canada is the one that governs pretty much anything to do with anything that flies or has wheels or gets towed by something in Canada. So
interesting video too. Thank you very much for submitting. Go ahead and give you a quick round of applause here, Operator Eric. So let me check something real quick. I just want to see if he oh, he did not answer. Okay. That's kind of interesting. I need to make that a required field. That's what I need to do. Anyway, really cool video. He's saying in the chat here, the fields were very muddy and we moved around. We had to get so we had a grain truck and cart that night, if I'm reading this right. We had a grain truck and cart. So apparently for some reason because the field was muddy, only the combine was in the field. That's what I'm gathering out of that, Operator Eric. Anyway, cool video. I'd say your video had a very interesting title to it, Helping a Farmer in Need. And it would have been cool to see just a little bit of something in that video explaining what exactly do you mean? I mean, it is very self-explanatory, but helping a farmer in need could be a little bit of narration or just some sort of visual cue even of what exactly is going on, why a farmer is needing help. That'd be kind of interesting to see next time. But yeah, thanks again for submitting. I hate to say it, but we're kind of at the end of our broadcast time for tonight. So any final thoughts, Nathan? What did we forget to talk about tonight?
Well, there's always something that a person forgets to talk about, but that's why you do these every couple of weeks. So if everybody tunes in next week and if there's something I got forgotten this time, then you'll pick it up next time, because these kind of interviews with different farmers and kind of looking at other people's drone videos, starts connecting the agriculture community together, as well as kind of connecting people not from the agriculture community. And it's something that is definitely needed.
For sure. And that's why we're going to keep making these as long as we can. These episodes of AgriLive where we sit down with a farmer, have discussions about, well, whatever, as long as it's related to production ag. So I also hope in the summer maybe that I get a chance to do a couple more in-depth videos about a few stories that some people around in some areas of Montana have to tell about their farms and what they're doing to feed the world too. So interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and cut to the the show's about to end slide right here. Oh, that I don't have you in here with. I think I can make that happen though. Yep, I can. There you are. All right. Well, any final thoughts before we close out? I already asked you this once, but oh no, I was gonna ask you a different question. Anything in particular that you want to see in these future episodes of AgriLive?
I think that you're doing a lot of good stuff, showing off other people's videos, which is helping you get noticed and helping them get noticed. And I don't know, it's the same old saying that no publicity is bad publicity. So if you're advertising agriculture and I'm advertising agriculture, you know, the Welker Farms and Kazai Farm and everybody else is advertising agriculture, then at some point we're going to do our duties as you know, younger farmers and start connecting farms back towards the communities around us.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully you can find a cool way to grow that Instagram account too. There could be some pretty good potential with that, with some media that you can push out as well, because it's definitely going to take as many of us as possible on social media, different communication platforms, even like just generic public speaking, to get some of these messages out, let the world know what we do, and battle some of those misconceptions. So once again, thank you very much. Hope that we can talk again sometime for sure. Maybe one of these days I'll be able to make a trip up to just kind of run up Alberta. There's a guy near Lethbridge that we could stop. We could stop at your place. We could go over to Saskatchewan. That might be kind of a fun little thing to do eventually someday, just to cover your story in a bit more depth. But anyway, thank you very much. We got to go. 2 weeks from now, more farm videos coming your way. Be sure to submit them so that you can submit them again because of the silly form thing that I invented. We'll see if it sticks or not. But thank you guys for submitting tonight too. That was awesome. Anyway, guys, catch you next time. Until then, see you later.
Thanks for showing up.